So, Sergeant Long, when I asked you if he was in violation of a criminal statute, you testified he was not, correct?
Right.
And then when she asked you, you said he was.
Just hold on. Sorry. Can he actually have the chance to answer that question?
So,
That's not what his testimony was.
okay. So, a statute versus the trespass statute, you need to be clear. Any other statute besides trespass statute? Because
No, Judge, I'm asking him to interpret that stuff, and I believe Your Honor will do a better job than any of us. So I can move on from this whole line of questioning and just ask a couple more.
And I think it's the court's job or a jury's job to interpret the statute. So Officer Long has testified he believed he had probable cause.
There will be time for argument.
okay,
I'm just responding to the objection.
yeah, and not allowing the question. So he's moving on.
I'm withdrawing and I'm moving on. You mentioned an analogy. You talk about how if a business were to call and say they wanted somebody off their property, that they would have law enforcement do that for them. You brought that up a couple times, right? You brought up a business, you brought up a landlord.
Yes.
You'd agree with me that a business is a private enterprise
Yes.
and that a courthouse is a public place.
Correct.
And those are different things.
Yes.
In November, you warned Mr. Lawler that if he kept up doing whatever he was doing, you were going to trespass him. What did he do when you warned him?
I'm an object judge, so this is just on redirect. And we're way beyond questions that were just in redirect. So these were questions that could have been asked in cross-examination. We're just focusing on redirect, his cross of redirect. And I think we're getting into beyond the scope at this point.
So this is recross. So I don't even usually allow recross. That I'm allowing it. How is this appropriate in recross?
The state asked Sergeant Long. The state said, Sergeant Long, you had no duty to warn him. Sergeant Long said, yeah, I didn't have to warn him before I arrested him in February because I warned him in November.
Okay. So what does the duty have to do with your current question?
So I'm going to ask him what happened in November. I anticipate his testimony will be that he warned him and Mr. Lawler left. Then I'm going to ask him in
I
February.
already have all that information.
And then in February that he didn't warn him and didn't give him a chance to leave.
I don't need him to tell me that. I've seen the video and I already know what happened.
And Mr. Lawler was not given a written trespass, correct?
Objection asked and answered.
No, it was never asked and answered. It was, I had questions about it, but it was never actually asked of the witness.
So your question was Mr. Lawler given a written trespass warning? Is that?
Yes.
No.
No further questions, Judge. Thank you.
You may sit down.
So do you want
Yeah,
Leave it there. Ms. Martin, any other witnesses?
No, Judge.
Mr. Moussa?
No, Your Honor.
Witnesses? All right. So you're not going to put on the other potential witness?
I didn't subpoena them. I was under the understanding the defense did.
Sergeant Long was rather forthcoming, Judge.
Got everything we needed?
We got everything we needed.
All right. Then are we ready to go to argument?
Yes,
Ready,
Judge.
Your Honor.
Would you like a few minutes to organize your notes?
I don't
or
think so,
ready to go?
Judge. I'm just going to mostly rely on my briefing. I think everything has been pretty clearly laid out in the briefing. I think there's actually not even a lot of questions in dispute. It's just whether the court thinks that there was probable cause and whether the court thinks the elements of the statute are met here for the motion to dismiss. So I don't think we need to waste time on oral argument. The briefing is very clear from both parties unless the court has specific questions for me.
I'm feeling Mr. Moussa is going to want to do a closing, so
Okay.
I'm going to give you the option to do one as well, but
No, Judge.
All
I
right.
think it's pretty clear. And I think especially given that the defense has even stipulated that he was recording everything. So it's just whether Your Honor thinks it meets elements of the statute and whether there's probable cause.
Thank you, Judge. So, Your Honor, we're asking that the case against Mr. Lawler be dismissed because there wasn't a crime committed. The trespass order was a life-imposed sentence upon Mr. Lawler by Sergeant Long saying he couldn't appear within the courthouse except on official business. He returns on official business. He's arrested without an investigation. Your Honor, the record evidence established that while he was there to process a citation, there was already a decision made to go 1080 him or arrest him as they walked up to Mr. Lawler, not knowing whether or not he was there on official business or not knowing whether he had permission to record or not. And that's all been testified to here today. And the issue really comes down to us from a legal perspective from the statute 1146-330. And in that statute, it reads that a person commits the crime of criminal trespass in the second degree if the person enters or remains unlawfully in or upon a premises. And then 350 defines what it means to enter or remain unlawfully. And that section reads that as used in 1146-300 to 1146-350, enter or remain unlawfully means to fail to leave the premises that is open to the public after being lawfully directed to do so personally by the person in charge. Sergeant Long testified that he was not the person in charge. Sergeant Long testified that he did it on someone else's behalf. Sergeant Long testified that at no time did Barbara Cloud or anybody else in charge ever personally direct Mr. Lawler to leave the premises. So just based on basic statutory construction, Mr. Lawler was never unlawfully remaining in that public place. Your Honor, the seizure of Mr. Lawler's person and his effects was unlawful because the enforcement lacked the requisite probable cause. And that was because his Sergeant Long arrested Mr. Lawler. At that time, Sergeant Long did not know if Mr. Lawler was there on official business. Sergeant Long did not know if Mr. Lawler had permission via that TF 945 form. And further, Sergeant Long testified that under the same basis that Sergeant Long records in the courthouse under the body-worn camera exception to the presiding order that was actually the one in place at the time both these situations occurred.
So is that different than the one that's been entered into evidence?
It is, Judge.
So I don't have that in evidence.
Yeah, we were all of us under the understanding that the one that they provided was the one that was relevant at that time, and then all of a sudden I look it up and there's a newer one, so we've all been operating under an inapplicable
I'm confused what defense is referencing.
order. You're the only one.
So his argument is there's the presiding judge's statewide order. The one entered in June is different than the one that you have entered here in evidence, which is
I don't know what he's referencing. I gave defense what was put in the packet for Sergeant Long's incident report and what was provided to defense. I think what he's referencing is not in evidence right now.
Sergeant Long testified that the presiding order that I showed him was the one that was applicable at the time, even though it wasn't the one that
you showed him you showed him something on your computer that wasn't authenticated. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how I can consider that as evidence.
It's because at the time I wasn't using it as evidence. I was impeaching him. That he used the wrong order to trespass him.
Well, there you go. Do me a favor, you guys. Let me know what you think of this in the comments down below. Do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. If you'd like early access to videos like this and more, the members tab is open. Donations are greatly appreciated. Like always, I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.